Okay, welcome to this week's episode of Luv Subbin, and today's a tow day.
Yes, and so we're getting ready to go off to Winchester, Virginia.
It's a relatively short tow day, about 256 miles, so we thought we'd take this opportunity to show you a bunch of tips and tricks for your tow day.
Correct. We're going to do the inside and the outside today.
And we're going to take you right from wake up all the way to the final dock and chalk in Winchester, Virginia.
Correct.
All right, let's hit this episode by going back to when we got up this morning. Okay, a tow day starts like any other day, and that means getting some light into the airstream. And you can see part of our spring maintenance is to lubricate these slides with silicone, and you can see how easy that makes opening these drapes. Super easy. Also, for our fantastic fan, one of the first modifications we did 20 years ago was to take this little doily-like thing, put some Velcro, cover that up. So over on the big main door, we have this Reflectex that we cut to fit the main door, so we'll take that off. We also have Reflectex cut to each one of the windows, but we really only use that when it gets below 32 degrees or above 95 degrees. But every window has the Reflectex custom used. And the next step is to make coffee. That's my job, but we've got a whole video on that. And go ahead and check out that video as to how to make some great RV coffee without any electricity at all. Let's go ahead and get this tow day underway.
The first thing I do on a tow day is get the dishes done and anything that uses a large amount of water, especially if we're on city water, because that way Rich can disconnect the water, and if we're not on city water, he can also fill up the tank as he disconnects the water as well. And depending on what the level of our tank fill up is, I will choose whether to fill up the sink or use a smaller dish to do the dishes.
A question I often hear is whether you should tow with your water tanks full or empty. And we always try, if at all possible, to tow with our tanks full. And there's a couple reasons we do that. First of which is a full water tank lowers your center of gravity, which from a towability standpoint is a good thing. Second, our water tank is ahead of the front axle. So anytime we add water to that, that adds weight to the tongue weight, and our tongue weight's a little dicey. So it's at about 10% of the total trailer weight, and it should be between 10 and 15%. So anything I can add to tongue weight is a good thing. And of course, having full water tanks, if all of a sudden you get stopped or you get sidetracked or you want to pull over and go to the bathroom or something like that, you've got water in your tank that you can use for those purposes. Now, if you choose not to run with water in your tank, that's fine. We do it too. Because, for example, when we winterized on the road last year at a campground, because it was going to be 19 to 20 degrees on our tow home, we ran with fresh water tanks. Center of gravity a little bit higher. Airstream still towed fine, so it's not a big deal. But the one thing I will say is right now, if you saw from our water gauge, we're at about 61%, that's the bad part as far as I'm concerned. It's okay to tow full, it's okay to tow empty, but the halfway point, and here's why. Under normal operations, sure, it'll be fine. There'll be nothing wrong. But what if your trailer started to sway accidentally? Started to sway like you've seen in the pictures, a lot of you. Well, then you've got a real problem, and your water tank is going to make it worse because you'll start sloshing. I assume my water tank doesn't have baffles. I watch a great YouTube channel called Chief McCoy, and he's a cargo ship chief engineer, and he actually talked about how they have to baffle all the holds when they carry liquid, because as the ship moves back and forth like this, the liquid tends to do this, and ships have actually capsized because of that. So in normal circumstances, you're probably fine. But if all of a sudden in that one risky case where your trailer starts to sway, that water's going to slosh, and it's going to make the sway worse and the recovery more difficult. So we've got a 32-gallon tank. We're at 61%, so we've got about 19 gallons in here. My jerry can holds 6. That's almost exactly 12 gallons, so we're going to dump 2 jerry cans of water into our fresh water tank. Let's go ahead and do that. Okay, we're going to go ahead and fill up with water here in our 6-gallon jerry can. I've tested the water previously with my total dissolved solids tester. I do that before hooking up or putting any kind of water into our water tank, because remember, we drink from our water tank. We don't just use it for dishes or whatever. So total dissolved solids at Promised Land State Park came out to 80 ppm. The Centers for Disease Control has an upper limit of 650 ppm, so we're well within the limit, so our water's pretty good, but we're still filtering it, as you can see back there, when it comes out of the spigot to add to our jerry cans. So is there a downside to adding water, running with full tanks? Sure, it's added weight, and that's going to take more to tow, which will reduce your fuel mileage slightly. But I actually did a comparison with empty and full water tanks when we did the winterization on the campground last winter, and I didn't really notice a difference. So if it is a difference, it's a pretty small one.
So I'm getting the bathroom ready to travel. I've wiped down the sink, and so we're just going to store everything in the sink here for our trip. And it can just rest in there and it'll be fine. But no, I do not put metal in the sink because it could scratch it. So that's ready to go. I also make sure the toilet is closed and the rug is outside, because when we travel, the toilet may slosh, and so it's easier just to wipe the floor when you get to your next destination instead of having to dry a rug.
Okay, now that we've added water, the next step in our departure on our tow day is to follow our checklist. And we follow these exclusively every single time. We've been doing this for 20 years, and every single hitch up, every single arrival goes through our checklist. Cindy does hers a little bit differently, and if you stay tuned towards the end of the middle-ish part of this video, we'll see how Cindy uses her checklist to prepare the inside of the RV for travel. But in my case, they're laminated. Because I'm using my hands a lot, I hang them around my neck. They're written upside down so that when I need to read them, they're right side up, and I still have use of my hands. So our checklists are always available for a free download at www.luvsubbin.com/checklist. And you know, we recently met somebody and they're like, "Hey, you're Luv Subbin. I've used your checklist." And that just made us feel super, super good that we've actually been able to help a few folks, especially the new folks. This is a great way to start that tow day. So what are you doing?
I'm pulling the pizza stone from the oven because we don't want that moving around and scratching things, and it just gets wrapped up in this little casserole holder and stuck in this drawer, or stuck in this cabinet right here. And I'm also pulling my curtain rods, where this one goes here. And always make sure you're careful opening your overhead cabinets when you get to your destination, because things will fall on your head when you get there. This one goes to the fridge.
By the way, one critical piece of kit for your departure day is a little step stool, whether it's for checking your oil or tightening your zippy wheelies.
Some people might not do this, but I always do, because the silverware tray is very heavy, and over the years it shakes around and will damage your drawer rails eventually. So it's just as easy to take it out.
Where will that be stored?
It'll just lay on the bed.
Plus you also hear stories of people, their drawers open up and fly out. With that less weight, less likely to happen.
Exactly. So I'm taking stuff down from the top cabinet that are very heavy, because the heavier items want to store down low, because you don't want this beating on your upper cabinets as you travel down the road.
So things like flour and sugar and
anything that's heavy
is going to come out of the overhead cabinets.
And I'll just put them in this tote bag and store them on the floor for the trip.
So I know it's just a simple step in the checklist, but I'm going to touch on it because I see this question asked all the time. And at this point in the checklist, we're going to remove our security devices. So the first of which that will come off is our red master lock, hitch lock. And the reason I chose this one is because it's red. Any hitch lock is going to be beaten by a professional thief. I've seen individuals on YouTube pick the lock of a proven industries lock in 1:28. And he drilled through it and removed it in 31 seconds. So a professional thief is going to be able to remove that. This is 25 bucks versus a couple $100. And then I have my master lock padlock that goes into the hitch receiver latch. And I don't know about the ones with the Demco, if you can do that. If you have one of the ones with the Demco, let me know if you can do it, just out of curiosity. But all right, our security measures have been removed. We're ready for the next step in the checklist.
So one of the nice things about this little pendant lamp that we got is that it unscrews at the base, and whenever we travel I always unscrew it and take it off so it won't swing around and beat itself when we travel. So, and it just travels on the bed as well. We make sure all our pictures are down.
And our little picture of all the states we've traveled so far.
Yes, thank you to one of our viewers who gave us that.
Awesome.
It's super nice.
Need to add a few more Western states, we think.
I think so.
One of the things about checklists and procedures is that you should always be changing them and updating them as new information becomes available. For example, as you can see here, when I would install my hitch pin, which has got like a locking mechanism here, I would install a safety wire. It's kind of like a double check. You know, sailors do this with the wire that goes around any type of screw-on pin or something like this. Aviation enthusiasts do it as well. But then I watched a You, Me, and the RV video, and they came across fellow RVers. You can see a brief clip of it here.
Recently we ran across an RV pulling their toad, and the toad caught fire. Took off running down to the toad fire, and we were trying to fight the flames with the extinguishers and disconnect the tow arms from the toad.
And they had to separate their tow vehicle from their trailer real fast. I mean, real fast. And so what they did is they just pulled this pin and then undid the safety chains and ran the truck forward, having the whole hitch and everything come off. So that was how they were able to do that. So I figured if ever, heaven forbid, the Luv Sub caught on fire or the truck caught on fire and I needed to separate the two real quick, I didn't want to mess with that safety pin. This latching mechanism, I think, is sturdy enough, and that safety factor for that emergency overrides that small pin. So yeah, always change your procedures as dictated.
So one thing I don't want to forget is to take the paper towel roll off the hanger, because otherwise it can't unroll itself during your trip, and that can be a big mess. Don't you love it when your paper towel roll does that?
And we have that sweet little suction cup thingy.
Yes, and it has never moved.
Cindy has just informed me that she's turned off the hot water heater and the furnace. So the next step on our checklist is to turn off gas. Now here at Luv Subbin, we pride ourselves in not telling you what you should do. We just tell you what we do, and then you can make your own decisions based upon our information and your research that you do in your own. But we do not run with our propane fridge on for 3 reasons. First, it's illegal to be within 20 feet of a gasoline pump with an open flame, which constitutes that with the fridge. Now you may say, what? No. Well, if you watched last week's video, I saw a guy drive off with his nozzle still in his tank. Now the quick disconnect worked and nothing was spilled, but what happens if that didn't work and all of a sudden fuel spilt everywhere? What happens if somebody in the pump next to you freaks out while moving it, the pump, squeezes the nozzle and spews gas? Those are all situations that could cause you to have a explosion should you be running an open flame within 20 feet of a pump. Now a lot of people, I read, turn their fridge off upon approaching a pump. Fine, that's cool, you can do that, you're lawful, but I just don't do it. Second, we have had gas lines detach themselves. Back in 2015, we had a gas line attached to the pilot light in the stove come off. Now, thankfully that was because it was valved, so gas didn't flow until we opened the valve, and then instead of the pilot light gas, just raw gas flew from the hose. But what would happen if that was on some other fixture that wasn't after a valve? You know, what if the main stove connection came apart and gas is flowing? That would fill your rig with gas. And we've seen pictures of RVs on fire, and I saw this picture of a base camp on fire on the highway. It's like, how does that happen? Well, that's one way it can happen. And the final reason is we don't need to. Cindy's going to show you her procedures for loading up the fridge, but in a nutshell, our fridge stays cold for 6+ hours. We have everything that we need for the trip in a cooler, and so why risk those other 2 situations when you don't really need to? So we're going to go ahead, turn gas off. That's how Luv Subbin does it. Do your own research. Decide how you want to do it.
So the last thing I do before we disconnect electricity is empty the fridge of anything that's on the door and anything that can tip and leak and potentially cause a mess inside your fridge. And so we also put things that we need for our trip. So once I'm done with this and we can close the fridge door, we don't have to open it again.
And our fridge will stay cold for 6+ hours.
Correct.
And that's one of the reasons we don't run propane.
Ready? So you can see I'm inserting the curtain rod. That'll keep things in place for the trip. You can see it's in there very tight. So you can see the curtain rod is in place. The fridge door is empty. I'm just going to close it up. And latch it.
So what is that latch?
It's just one of those child-proof latches. We have an unusual configuration where it's a curved surface. So this just sticks here and latches here. So it works out very well. If you want some more tips and tricks about RV refrigeration and your refrigerator, check out this video right here. So I'm a little different than Rich. He goes through his things item by item. I do everything at once, and then I go through at the end and go through my checklists to double check that everything that needed to get done was done. You can see the organized chaos, that's the bed and the floor, but everything travels very safely that way. So we're just going to go through my checklists and see that, make sure everything's done. First, we're going to turn off the fridge. So you can see all the countertops are clear, here and there, and in the front bedroom, and so we're ready to go.
All right, well, there you have it. Part 1 of our RV tow day tips.
We like to keep our videos to be under 20 minutes long, so we decided to cut this one in half.
So stay tuned next week when we have a whole bunch more tips, including some stuff on the road. So if you like this video,
give us a big thumbs up.
And if you think we've earned a subscription, click to subscribe.
And comment below if you have some departure tips that you would like to share.
Because we come out with RV and Airstream related videos just like this one every Tuesday.
Thanks for watching.